don't gotta do it if you don't want to. You don't gotta do it if you don't want to. It's just a suggestion. Come on.
We're doing this again? Oh, we're back. Okay, so we started the relationship conversation about starting the relationship.
The beginnings of a relationship.
The very beginnings. Welcome back. I'm Psych. Joining me today is K. And we're trying to end this bottle of beautiful bourbon.
We don't try, bro. We succeed.
Four Roses. Four Roses.
It's a good bottle.
AI from our last series helped us out with that. But yeah, we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to continue on this road of relationships and how do we maintain them? How do we keep them going? How do we keep them strong? What is going to motivate people to stay in a thriving, healthy relationship?
Yes, we're going to talk about the middle. And hopefully the middle is forever. We'll talk about the end of a relationship next time. But yes, what we're focusing on now is how do you stay in a healthy, productive, positive relationship for as long as humanly possible?
Yes, I don't think many people venture into what they would consider long-term, significant, serious relationships with an end in mind. So yes, absolutely. If somebody wants to keep that relationship strong and healthy.
Yes. How do we avoid divorce or breakups?
Yeah. You can avoid divorce by not filing for divorce.
I've heard that. With that in mind here, I'm going to take over this real quick. I've got a statistical thing that I want to show you here. This is my first attempt to take over the screen and present a TikTok video. This is actually a Facebook reel, but I'm sure it started on TikTok. Anyway, here we are. Here we go.
So when you hear a statistic, you have to ask yourself, you got to look at it different ways. This is one when I first got married. 44% of marriages end in divorce. Now that's a scary number when you first get married. It's like my wife and I, are we going to make it? But look at the other side. If 44% of marriages end in divorce, you know what that means? 56% of marriages end in death.
So, yes, 56% of marriages end in death. And while that is
That's so hyperbolic. How do you take that?
Don McMillan, if you're curious about the comedian, Don McMillan. But I think that the goal for us in this episode is how do you get your marriage to end in death?
Yes, well, you have to make it that far. You have to make it that long. You have to put in work. I've heard it put that relationships, much like I was told in my credentialing program, with teaching, it's like driving. One of my instructors said, teaching is like driving. You constantly have to assess where are you on the road, where are others in proximity to you, and you make adjustments. And I think relationships are the same way. When you enter into a relationship, you were a person and they were a person at that particular point in time. They had expectations, wants, and desires, as did you, at that particular point in time. And those dreams, desires, wishes, expectations evolve over time. And so if you're not continuing to check in with that person, if you're not keeping those lines of communication open as you progress through the relationship to find out, were there any adjustments? Did anything change? How should I adapt? Does the other person need to adapt? How are we giving? Are they giving? Is it reciprocated? It's about acknowledging where you are in the relationship, having enough communication to find out and learn what your partner wants. And then you try to give of yourself so that they are getting what they want and need, and they hopefully are doing the same for you.
So from a host of studies about longevity in a relationship, one of the 4 key factors is personal growth and adaptability. Couples who grow together and adapt to changes are more likely to sustain. So to your point. And yes, Yes, you're talking about taking a person, an individual, and merging them with another individual. Now, they're not the same person. What kind of relationship would that be? Very, very, very few celebrities have ever tried to marry themselves. Dennis Rodman.
That'd be awkward.
Yeah. But it's the things that are the same, but also the things that are different that attract you to another person.
Opposites do attract.
Yeah. Or just it's not you, and there's an allure there. There's an excitement, and varying degrees of excitement, persist the relationship. But knowing that you are going to have to adapt in order to maintain the positivity amidst those differences, huge for a relationship. So regale me with your thoughts on how your marriage continues to be positive and productive. Because you've been married, 16 years?
Going on 16 years this year, and we have been together 20 years in September. So it all started from the foundation. We went into the relationship with the knowledge that we were both seeking to be married. We were both seeking to have children, start a family, and we were both maintaining the idea, the principle that marriage is lifelong. So we from the very beginning, we knew marriage was the context that we wanted to have children, share a life with another person, and to remain with that individual for as long as we were both.
So at the beginning of
alive.
the relationship, you shared a traditional value structure.
Yes.
That was a positive portion of initiating that relationship.
Yes. And I took that a step further, and this might be a bit extreme for some.
Please. I said regale me.
I wrote everything I wanted and expected and was looking down. I made a physical list. I wrote it all out. And then I presented it to my wife, she's still married to me
I
now.
would love to step through the portal and ask your wife then that evening how she felt about that.
I was just honest and open and forthcoming, full disclosure. I was like, hey, this is what I'm looking for out of life. And it was early on in the relationship. And I wanted to get a sense of, how does she feel about this? Does she feel that this is okay? Does she agree with these things? Is there anything on this list that she disagrees with or doesn't want to be a part of? And at that point, I mean, that would have been a turning point, right? It could have, if she's like, no.
Number 6 is a showstopper.
This is a deal breaker, and I don't want anything else. And I kind of arranged and organized the list in a certain way. These are things that are high priority. These are things I'd like them, but they can go either way. And then these are the absolute deal breakers.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
And it worked.
Yeah, I mean, apparently.
There wasn't any time wasted not knowing.
So here's the question. Of that list, from what you can remember, how many of those things through personal growth and adaptability are no longer viable or necessary in your relationship? Or did you just keep your ground? The line in the sand was there, and you've.
That's a great question.
Everything you've adhered to.
You have to realize that this list was drafted 20 years ago.
By a 23-year-old, very, very, and when we were younger, of course, we've got a very black and white concept of the world.
You know what? I didn't fathom that I was going to tell this story. I could have asked my wife. She still has the list, I believe.
That's so good.
To this day.
Not framed, but it's there somewhere.
I believe she kept it. She saved it, and Yeah, I think all of the main, all the important stuff remains the same, right? I wasn't dating to look for fun.
Yeah.
Is dating fun? Yes. Is it fun with the person that you think you're going to spend the rest of your life with? Yeah, hopefully it is. Hopefully fun's a part of it, but I wasn't just going to date somebody to have fun. I wanted to have children. She wanted to have children. I wanted to have a lifelong partner to share experiences and encounters with, and I wanted to have somebody at home when I came home after a hard day of work where I could lean on for support, and vice versa. There's all sorts of the main components are still very much true. You do and have remained the same. You want to have somebody who you share values with, who you align, your standards and morals are aligned with them, whether that's based in some sort of faith or religion, or if that's just a personal creed that somebody adopts, a mantra that somebody has that they have carried with them through life. You want to, if you distill everything about a human being and take them down to the most basic level, and if that also aligns with this other individual, I think those people have a greater chance of success in making it.
So you've maintained the core values of your list.
Yes.
But perhaps things like "must darn my socks" are gone at this point.
That was not on the original list.
That was on my father's, actually. That's a funny story. So yes, one of the other 4 key factors: sharing values and interests. And you guys have that in common. There are things you don't share as interests, but there are things that you do.
I mean, we were just over at your house this morning.
Yeah.
Working out. Yeah. Is it working?
It is.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. And I think that and when we talk about shared values, I think that the idea of shared values, it doesn't necessarily have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to necessarily be like religious beliefs, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be political views. It can go down. I think that relationships need to find common ground and adaptability and compromise at any fundamental layer. I just had this conversation with my wife and a friend of ours, who is a bit of a neat freak, and she's always my friend, not my wife, always complaining about the people in her life are just slobs. And then I started thinking about it, and I know several people who are happy in their relationships, long-term relationships. I mean, I've been married for 19 years. I have a friend, an old friend from high school, who's been married for 21. He's got a couple of kids, and if I thought about myself and my wife, and my boy T and his wife, and you and your wife, down to the base layer, we all have one thing in common as a relationship. We are all fundamentally okay with the level of cleanliness or disrepair of our households. Me and my wife are of the same mind. I don't want to clean too much, and she doesn't want to clean too little. We have the same basic understanding of what acceptable clean is.
Yes, if you're going to be cohabitating with someone, right? You're sharing space. You're living in the same area. That environment, the atmosphere about you, is what you make it, or what you don't. Yeah, you have to be comfortable with that. But yeah, that's an interesting observation to make.
Everything is layered. It's the little things. It's the little things. But it's not just a little thing. Because if you can't find a compromise in a little thing, it's not going to work out. But if you've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 little things all kind of stacking on top of each other, eventually it's like Jenga, it's just going to fall over. You're like, let me fix this thing in the middle here. Oops, and everything's trash. So I think that being able to neatly stack as many of the little things that you can get along with, or you can compromise successfully, has a lot to do with the success. We always talk about the big things, but I think the little things help out a lot, because living with this person. I'm not living with anybody else but my wife. It's me and my wife every day in, day out.
Hopefully compromises, in my opinion, hopefully compromises are few and far between. Hopefully the opinions and the points of view of the individuals in that relationship and their preferences and whatever ideas and thoughts they have about the direction that their relationship should be taking are aligned as much as possible. And I know there's going to be disagreements, and you want one color and they want the other color. You want this for dinner and they want this. Okay, those are relatively minuscule. But when it comes to like important stuff, when a significant decision needs to be made, hopefully compromise is unnecessary at that point, because those ideas and those have already been established.
So communication and conflict resolution is one of the 4 key factors of longevity. Now let me ask you this. What happens when there's a major conflict?
Well, I would even go a step before that. You said conflict resolution.
Yes.
Conflict resolution.
Yes.
If the relationship is running smoothly and optimally, it's probably void of conflict. From my personal experience, my wife and I, we don't really argue. We don't have very many conflicts. We don't have things that we disagree upon very often at all. In fact, when it comes up and when we do, it's really kind of fun. We kind of like, all right, let's mark the calendar. We just had an argument. We had a disagreement. And when do we get to have our next one?
That's hella dumb.
It always ends well. No, but from both of our perspective, because it happens so infrequently that we both recognize we've done an excellent job to this point. And okay, this minuscule bit of strife is probably something that we needed at this particular point in time, and we came out the other side unscathed, and the relationship was at the very least just as strong, if not stronger, on the other side of it.
So yeah, I agree. You definitely need to be able to resolve conflict and have a communication. I love that you have such a cavalier attitude about this, because but like you, my wife and I rarely ever argue. I mean, we're just easygoing, and we have that foundation of core values. But when we do, or if we do, it's devastating. It's so hard. Like it hurts. It hurts. Both of us have a real hard time being okay with it.
Okay.
So complete antithesis to what you're saying. But I'm glad that you have argument anniversaries. That's brilliant. Then the last thing is support system. People need. They say that people need support from family and friends when for advice, to help with things in the relationship. I don't know that I completely agree with that, because I know a lot of people who give shitty advice. But it's one of the 4 key factors of influencing longevity, according to this study collection that I looked up.
Your support group, that circle of support that you have available to you, if it's not strong, and if the people around you aren't reasonably sound-minded and unwilling or unable to point you in the right direction, even if that right direction means pointing out the fact that you were wrong and you should not have done that and you need to go apologize for this indiscretion. If those people aren't available to you, I know it was one of Chance the Rapper's songs, one of his raps. He said he didn't want to have people at his wedding that weren't going to be there in his marriage. And I thought that was quite profound, right? Inviting people to the biggest day of your life so that you can invite them to participate in your life thereafter. And if those people aren't significant enough to you, if you don't hold their opinions in high regard, if they're not individuals that you would seek out wise counsel with, then why are they there for the free meal that you're going to provide them in the open bar?
That's actually a really interesting point. So are you suggesting that having this massive gala wedding with 600 people and catered and live music and open bar at a country estate off in the foothills, this massive thing could that be a red flag indicator that or to strike against the longevity of the marriage?
I would venture to say that if we were to graph out all of the weddings and take into account what their expenses were and how many people attended, and then track them over 10, 20 years and find out how many of them are still together, I would venture to say I would bet on the smaller backyard church weddings with under 1,000 people, definitely.
Under 1,000 people, definitely. I don't even know 1,000 people.
Yeah, well, I mean, if your wedding's in the hundreds of people,
Yeah.
and if for some reason, if my bride to be was insistent on having everybody over,
Everybody ever met?
and let's just do this because I'm the bride to be and I deserve it,
My day
and
stuff, yeah.
this is my day. It's not about you. You just show up, and I'm gonna walk out, and we're gonna be together, forever. I would say probably.
I think that might be an
Relatively
indication
few.
of unwieldy expectations. Because, I definitely let my wife make as many decisions as possible when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely her day. And I totally accepted, and I embraced it, and I thought it was great. But we still got married in a restaurant's banquet hall by her father with 62 people there.
Mm-hmm. And my wife and I, we got married at a local church in their outdoors, in front of their fountain, right in front of the church building, and our reception was at the Holiday Inn.
That's good. We literally got married. They put the tables together, and the banquet was served right there in the same room. And then they moved the tables out, and the dance floor was right there in the same room.
But the day, I will say, unlike many current weddings, was paid for that day.
Yes.
There was zero debt
Yes.
going into we were just about to enter into life. We were about to start a life.
Yeah.
We definitely didn't want to, and we were blessed to be in a position where we did not have to start that new life together with debt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if at all possible, I think we know financial strife
Big
is
big
one
factor.
of those
Yeah.
pitfalls.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So let's talk about, we talked about last episode, we talked about meeting people and where to meet people, right? But where do you meet people to give yourself the best opportunity for longevity in the relationship?
I think you can meet people. I mean, if somebody, I mentioned church, if somebody is a church goer, I think many churches have vibrant singles ministries. That could be a place. If you share a faith with the person that you are considering to enter a relationship with, that could be a really strong foundation. Other than that, getting outside and meeting people in the wild, clubs, there's different activities that you can join. You can go to certain venues or on certain. I was just recently a part of a running club, and we just went out there, and there's all sorts of people, all sorts of different ages, from all sorts of different backgrounds. Attractive-looking people taking care of their health and engaging in a shared activity.
And that's a shared interest.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a chance encounter. That's a shared interest.
Yes, shared interest, and it's deliberate, and it can start from the standpoint of, hey, I'm just doing this for me, and which aligns with my philosophy of just live your life and do the best for you. Make yourself the most attractive person you can as you proceed through life, and that's going to be undeniable. People will notice, and the people that notice, can potentially be the one you're going to spend the
Yeah,
rest of
and
your life with.
if you're looking to attract people, being attractive is good path to take.
Yes. I would say universities and colleges, if you're taking classes or you're going back for professional development, that could be an excellent place.
So these are all where we're meeting people, and yes, that's great. But which is the one or the two where you meet somebody, you start a relationship, and those relationships have the statistic probability to last the longest?
Oh,
Of all the things we talked about last time, which you've already hit on several of them. If
if I had to venture a guess, let's go with universities and houses of faith.
Okay, so we'll start. So school and college relationships, couples that meet during their educational years have a significant life experience and development stages in their infancy, which can create strong foundations because they're at the same level. However, problems can generally arise as these people grow. You talk about growing apart as you evolve as a person as you get older. The number one for amongst heterosexual people is community and religious settings. So your running group, that's a community of people, and of course religion. And they say that such relationships benefit from strong community support and shared practices. So that's the big one for heterosexual people. For the gay community, recent studies showed that 60% of gay people met their significant other online, as opposed to 27% for heteronormative individuals. But online dating is the we talked about this last time. I talked about the study published in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. Online dating has one of the highest and continuously incrementally increasing success rates. Obviously, there's not enough data because you can pull data from people meeting at church back to the 1600s, but
Sure.
But you can only talk about online. You're talking about 1996 and forward.
Okay.
But
And it talked about people using online dating to become married.
So this is not online dating versus online apps. So it's meeting people online in various ways.
So websites, apps.
Yeah, or Facebook, social media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it goes back to friends of friends. One of the most common ways to meet somebody online successfully is through a mutual friend on a social media website, Facebook, Instagram, kind of stuff. Workplace relationships also make the list, and as I said last episode, everybody I knew in groceries was either married to a grocer or divorced from one, and you could probably run that graph based on their age too.
That happens quite often with professions that are extremely demanding when it comes to attorneys,
Yes.
doctors, people in the medical field, people that if you are devoting 50, 60 plus hours a week to your profession,
It's a third or more of your life.
it makes sense to align yourself with somebody who is also in that profession, because not only do they understand what you're going through more than the average person or the person outside of that particular career path, but you can, well, especially if you are in medicine or an attorney, or if you're working at a law firm, you have so many things that are confidential that you are off the table for discussion. And not only are they off the table for discussion, but the other person might not understand if they're not in it.
Yeah, and of course the potential risks, according to this, are conflicts of interest, like you said, and workplace dynamics. So in groceries, they didn't say a checker couldn't date a checker, but they explicitly forbade you seeing someone who was below you in the management hierarchy.
Got it.
Goes back with the workplace dynamics.
Makes sense.
Yes. social media and dating apps. We talked about that. And then, of course, we get down to casual encounters and chance meetings, back to bars and nightclubs. And those currently and traditionally have the lowest percentage of relationships that last.
Yes. And when you're going to a place where you plan on becoming intoxicated and you plan on meeting somebody who is also intoxicated and their inhibitions are lowered and their decision making
Yes.
is askew.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're also you're going to a place to look for somebody based on no criteria other than physical attractiveness.
And geography.
And geography, yes. And so those two factors, or three factors now that we've got three, contribute to dater's remorse pretty quick.
And
they
you mentioned physical attractiveness. So in the beginning stages, yes, I would say the person wants and needs and desires to be physically attracted to their prospective partner.
I still do.
Same. And yes, that needs to continue to occur, I think, not only for the health of the individuals that are in the relationship, but usually people that are physically, if you're healthy and you're physically active and you're more likely to be physically attractive, and keeping that alive as the years progress, maintaining that, or maybe even finding ways to improve upon your physical attractiveness as you age, as the relationship ages, definitely helps in keeping that relationship vibrant and alive. Because whether people like to admit it or not, you are still in competition with everyone else that is out there, right? Your current mate could decide at any moment that they like something better on the other side of the fence.
They've evolved in a different direction.
Yeah, the grass is greener over there, and so that's where I am going to go. You let yourself go. You shouldn't have done that, and now it's very easy for them to...
Yeah, and I think that gets into the concept of marital satisfaction, which we'll probably talk about more next episode.
Related.
But divorce rates are decreasing. They've been decreasing steadily since the 80s. And of
what is the divorce rate now?
So according to studies, in 2019 it was approximately 2.7 per 1,000 people, the lowest it's been since 1970.
Okay.
And part of the thing, so some of the stuff that we talked about is relevant. So, meeting somebody in college is good because you're sharing the goals, but you're young. You're not fully developed yet. You may grow into a different person. That becomes a problem. Meeting somebody at a bar, once you wake up the next morning and find out you have nothing in common, then you could have an issue there. Meeting at the church or meeting in a social environment, which I will include online dating with that. A community environment is the strongest way to do it because you have shared values. But things are your chances are better today because of the socio-cultural shifts in marriage. So the biggest change is people are getting married later in life. That's happening a lot more. I remember when I got married, I was 27 years old. And guy I was in a band with, he asked me, so how old are you? And I said, I'm 27. He said, that's too young for a man. How old's your fiance? And she was 24. She's 3 years younger than me. He said, oh yeah, that's about right. but people getting married older, the way that they see themselves fitting into society has more stabilized. They're not growing in the same way. And so that's contributing to the success of marriage longevity. Education levels and economic factors, of course. So you've gone through college already, you're established, You can look for somebody who has a similar education level. You're both a little older. You both might be more established monetarily. It's a tribute to the notion that we're seeing a shift away from the classic white picket fence marriage where you get married and you are the single income earner. The economic factor of two people having established incomes is becoming more of a trend for producing longevity in a relationship.
And depending on what part of the country that relationship is occurring, can influence whether or not one person provides.
We're in California. We may not be able to survive here comfortably with a single income. And so dual income in the United States today, I would categorize it as highly recommended to mandatory. And so having those economic factors firmly set before you even meet, it's a benefit, and it's going to help the relationship. And of course, legal changes have helped, non-hetero communities as far as that goes, because people are getting married, whereas before they weren't even allowed to get married. When we're talking about shifts from interracial marriage to gay marriage to going forward, and so
There has been some progress in those, areas.
And so these things are being allowed. However, that didn't stop people really from being together for long periods of time. Or did it? I'm not sure. But if we're talking specifically about marriage, yes. If we're talking about the longevity of a relationship, period. 'Cause not everybody gets married. Not all cultures getting married. I know plenty of people who have a significant other and kids, and they've been together for 30 years. But marriage is just not a part of their culture. So yes, and attitudes towards the same has also increased the people like, oh, I think we can get married now. It's okay.
I think some people have this idea, this notion that you have to be in a certain position to be married, right? Someone has to save up enough money to provide the other person with a ring of a certain value. You have to have a certain amount of money in the bank so that you can be financially stable and comfortable enough. You have to have a certain job or certain position at your current job or profession to be able to provide for the needs of that household, that relationship, then that new life that you are creating together. It really takes work. It takes work. You have to. Going back to I think another rapper I was listening to, Big Sean, pretty much said the grass is it's only green where you water it, right? If you're putting in the work, right? People think the grass is always greener on the other side, so that must make the other side of the fence better, not realizing that on the other side of the fence, they were putting in the work. They were building that relationship. They were making it what you currently see. And if someone's unwilling or unable to devote themselves to making sure that that relationship grows and is strengthened and progresses over time, then it won't sustain.
Yes. Okay. Good. So I want to say that the concept. So make your marriage about you, or make your life together about you. That's my advice. And the whole idea of a ring needing to cost a certain amount is marketing. And I will tell you exactly when it started. In the 1980s,
The Devons?
De Beers.
De Beers.
The De Beers
that's right.
Jewelry Company started a campaign where they strongly suggested that your wedding ring should cost 2 months' salary. And in the 90s or in the late 20th century, they increased it to 3 months.
3 months, yes.
So don't make it about, don't start your relationship off with financial ruin by being overly concerned about how much everything's going to cost just to get in the house together. That's my advice to you. Bring it home. What do you got? What's your last statement?
Well, I was just thinking about the ring because I knew at the time I bought the ring for my wife. We were in church. We went to church that morning, and a family in the church, a woman we knew, we went to small groups with, and she older, senior, kind of an elder in the church, stopped me on the way out of the church and was like, "What are you doing?" She berated me.
You got chastised.
Yes. She's like, "Why didn't you go in front of my current bride?
Oh my gosh.
Why didn't you go make an honest woman out of her? Like, what do you?" And I was like, we had been dating so it was probably going on 3 years at that point. So I went. I had a K account open at the time, and I think it opened with like $200.
Yeah, letter K jewelers,
something like that. And I went to check that day, and I don't know when it had happened, but it had been increased significantly. And I went that day and picked out a ring. And in fact, the day I went, there was they were just in a promotion, and there was another couple that had a whole bunch of coupons that they couldn't use, and they left $500 on the table. And the manager was like, "Here, I want to give this to you," and got like $500 off of the purchase right then and there, and made it happen. But I waited too long, and you know what? I would say if it's right, then just make it happen. There's no reason to try to fit every societal norm or to be influenced by what's going
especially
on
if
around us.
Societal norms are commercial marketing.
Yes.
And we don't realize just how much of our societal norms are commercial marketing. Anyhow, it's a topic for another time.
It worked out though,
It
right?
totally worked out.
3 years of dating, and get your ring from K.
So the takeaway is that if you're worried about, the little logistical things that need to happen before you pop the question or before you get married, just wait until the spinstery old lady at the church berates you.
Then it all works out.
Yeah. All right. So next time we will talk about the end.
That's a little sad.
Yeah, and it's going to require some research because I don't have a lot of personal background on ending long-term relationships.
Neither do I.
But we'll get into it because we have to. We do this for you. So,
Cheers, everyone.
see you next time.
Next time.